New Year coming up to you. I hope you all had a really nice Christmas. I know mine was fine. And, if you're with family, that's the most important thing. And it's not just a saying, it's such a real experience that goes on, and you know how much you care for them and those people mean to you. And we get so far apart sometimes that it's difficult for us to come together at times. But it seems like Christmas and Thanksgiving, those things can be done at that time. And we all leave feeling like, oh, we need to do this more often. It was so pleasant to do, and getting reacquainted with loved ones, some brothers and sisters, some you haven't seen for many years. And so we went and did that. Now with that, I work all the time, not like Kurt. He's a single bachelor up in North Dakota, and I'm a bachelor down here in Utah. So at least he's got a dog. I don't have a dog. And so anyway, my spare time when I'm done is I don't want necessarily to go home. I spend my time working for you, finding out things, and I always go to church. Sometimes come down for church, and I'll have weeks without a day off. Why am I doing it? Because I make more money? No, it's because I believe in what I'm doing and what I can provide for you. So there's some tremendous changes coming, and it's more than symbolic, and it's more than philosophical. The changes that are happening to our society is going to shake you right to your very core, if you could but even visualize what they are. And that's within about a 10-year period of time, and some things a little longer. So I'll try and give you some time frames on this and what's going on. Right now, we have a fairly sophisticated society, don't we? And it's the greatest nation ever existed on the history of the earth. The stock market just hit 9,000. Never did that before. Sensational. When you look at things like the average income, it's the highest it's been for everyone, including all minorities. On top of that, and unemployment's the very lowest it's been. We're in really an idealistic place. However, here's what happens: is knowledge is accumulative, and sometimes you come to a point that it's a milestone. So if you think about things where they had the Iron Age and the Bronze Age, see, those kind of showed big changes within society. Then you had the Industrial Revolution that came through over 100 years ago or so with what was going on. But now in 2020, we're going to have the most massive changes that have ever happened on Earth. In fact, it's estimated that in 10 years, after 2020, 10 years later, the total knowledge of the world will have doubled. That means everything we've learned from the foundation of this country and before that is now in a 10-year period of time going to double. What are we going to do with all that knowledge? What is it going to be? How's it going to affect us and what we're doing? It's going to have a profound effect on us because we have a lot of things that we're not prepared for. And most of the students that are going to university now are getting the education in the wrong thing. There are some, the sciences, mathematics, engineering, those things are going to be there, computer programming. But many of the other fields that people are going in, including medicine itself, are going to be severely curtailed because of a number of important things, such as artificial intelligence, which is coming on very, very quickly. And it scares me because they're saying that they think by 2040 that they will be able to take your personality and store it in the cloud. Everything that you are to be restored. Well, I mean, how does it restored? But saved, it's you, it's everything. Will you have intelligent thought in there? I don't know. Those are suppositions. And some things no, but you know what? Maybe yes, with how it is, because the advancements are so great. Of course, we see self-driving cars coming, see electrical cars coming. Okay, so those things are technologically more advanced and coming on. But here's what's really going to do some damage, I think, to our society, which we have to be careful for, is knowledge is going to go from, or excuse me, the way we work and the way we earn our income is going to change. The traditional worker model isn't going to work anymore, because the jobs that people are doing right now, that what you are doing, very likely, and that can even includes education, very likely will metamorphose and change. And that will happen in a very short period of time. Much of it will happen in the next 10 years. And the one thing that's going to happen in the next 10 years is all of the productive things that we've been doing in life, what you're creating, making, or earning, the jobs that you're doing are going to be obsolete. So are you going to be obsolete? No, but what you do is going to be obsolete. And so there's going to have to be some massive programs done to figure out how to retrain people to do things, and to do what? Because we're going to go mostly from a manufacturing society to a society of services and things like this. And much of it will be controlled by artificial intelligence that's there, and all types of sophistication. In fact, they think by about 2025 that the total knowledge of the world you'll be able to draw on yourself wherever you're at your fingertips, perhaps without a cell phone or whatever you have. I don't know. That isn't my field, but I do know what they're saying, because I deal with a lot of the top, most advanced scientists in the world. And I just attended a seminar and I had a few that flew into my house. And we had a meeting on some of these things because I'm concerned about it. So if we take a look at this, and suddenly the job you have is being done by a robot, or it is not needed any longer because technology has made another way to do it better, faster, cheaper, and you're obsolete, so to speak, for that job. So what about all the college graduates? They come out of there, and I'll tell you, I thought it was a big mistake when they did it. Now they find out it is true. But when they allowed students to finance loans, when I went to university, and I'm sure you did too, Doc, I paid for my university. I worked hard in the summers. I worked part-time. And when I got out of school, my education was paid for. But that's not the way it is now. Now they're graduating and they're being pushed to do it. Why? Because if you really want to think about this, and I think most of us have not, but consider this: the huge loans are guaranteed by the governments. And so there is no reason for upper education to be efficient. And they gouge these students tremendously. In fact, the cost of education has been going up about 8% every single year. Those are huge increases that are happening. And so here you have somebody graduating from the university, and maybe many of them that have got a degree that have spent $100,000, $200,000, as many have, are going to be in a field where there is no demand for them. Or if there is, that's going to go away. And so they've been educated and trained, and they have this massive debt, and all of that is there. So it's very scary, exciting in some ways. I like being surprised, a lot more than that, but I like knowing what I'm doing too. We all have that nature. But the one thing that's really going to overwhelm us, I think, is how much technology will be there at an instant. If you can, they're saying in 15 years from now, 2035, that whatever is known in all the world and everything, it will be right there instantly for you. You'll have to, maybe kind of like this Alexa that they have for speaking on a grand scale, far beyond that you'll simply ask and the answer will be there. I don't know how it's going to be there for, if it's spoken to you, see it, or do a combination, but that's how it's going to be. So it doesn't matter necessarily in a lot of ways how smart you are. It's because the information, you ask the question, the information will be provided to you. So what you've got to do is decide how you're going to take care of what you're doing with it. If you have an income, and you have a job and suddenly it's obsolete and you have a big debt on your house. So how are they going to take care of that? Are we going to look at socialism, or are we going to look at paying for everything for people? If that's the case, we'll soon have, all of us will have very little, except some of the people who are by far the most, am I still on?
Yes, you're still on, Tom. We're listening to you.
Oh, okay. I had something come out, and so I thought it was. So long as I'm on, I popped a cord. So
okay.
So anyway, when you think about this kind of thing and where you're at and what you're going to be, what kind of life you want to have, the opportunities to do it, the times that we've had all this pioneering that we could get into, and with the technological changes and advances and automobiles and airplane travel and all of the different types of manufacturing we can do, those things are going to get automated, and you're going to get automated out. So they think for the tasks that need to be done in this super advanced society, we'll need a much smaller workforce to do it. And yet, on the other hand, what's happening to the population here in the world? When I graduated school in 1960, at that time, there were about, if I remember correctly, it was about 1.6 million or billion people here on the earth. At the turn of the century, 1900, I think it was like 800 million. You have to realize in the Chinese time of the emperors and the Great Wall, they had 50 or 60 million Chinese, and that's all that was in the country. But look what they did. So now we sit with China sitting there approaching 1.5 billion, maybe on to 2 billion. India is the same. And between those two, they'll have 3 to 4 billion people just in those two countries that are there, plus the rest of the world population. And so it will be, they determined that by the year 2040, we're going to have 12 billion people here on Earth. Whereas if you go back in just 140 years, we had 800 million. And in that 140 years, we're going to jump, that massive jump, to where we have 12 billion versus less than 1 million just 140 years before. So what's going to happen to our resources? How are we going to make food? Well, big farms are being automated, and with vast amounts of things to do, and everything from planting to weeding to harvesting to processing in many of the fields of agriculture, which used to be labor intensive, are now automated, done by satellite. They can be cutting grain or wheat, things like that, or any other crops, and they can have gigantic machines that look like they're from Star Wars. Those things are there now, folks, and they have somebody that's sitting in a building there with a joystick and a screens and sets everything and makes sure it's done, and they do everything exactly the same every time where they're at. So we're going to have that ability to produce more food, but there's got to be some limiting factors. And what scientists say, and it's calculable, that the world has a certain amount of fresh water. It's really kind of interesting because the Amazon has 20% of all the world's water. A lake in Russia, Baikal, has 20% of all the world's fresh water. So that takes it out to where 40%'s gone right there. The Amazon doesn't do us a lot of good, and the Lake Baikal does not either. And it empties into the Arctic north. It flows where most of the other rivers and things that we're used to here in Europe and around, they flow to the sea here. In Russia, they have, I think it's 7 gigantic rivers that all flow northward up to the North Pole, of where they can't grow anything. They have a growing season of maybe 3 months, limited with bitter colds and huge ice packs that form. And when it starts to build up these ice packs, they have tens of thousands of square miles that are covered with nothing but ice every single year. So where's that fresh water gone? Here's the point. By 2050, virtually all available fresh water will be gone. And that is here, we're going to have a big battle because it's going to be so highly contaminated with toxins. Now, hopefully science would get to the point where we can take care of it better than we have before. But when you think you have the massive pressure on of 12,000 or 12 billion people demanding that same amount of fresh water, that's hard to conceive how we're going to do that. And then when you have no job, what are they going to, what are you going to do? What are they going to do? When I say they, I'm talking about government or associations. They've got to design something. Maybe you can spend all day not doing anything and still get paid. What kind of character does that build? What does those things do? Suppose you do have some type of a job that you can do. Well, most things are going to be so automated, your income is going to be fairly stagnant. And it's going to be, as they start doing things for more people because there's no need for them and we have to take care of them, the amount of money we earn is going to go down, down, down. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. I'm just giving this off the top of my head so you know I've been studying it, talking about it with those kind of things. But the one thing that's happening, it's just like global warming. Global warming is so advocated by a number of people, but it's really a political issue. Now, I have a couple ranches. I love the outdoors, and the environment means a heck of a lot to me. And I would defend that. In fact, as I helped found Sportsmen for the Environment, a big organization here, and Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife. I've put a lot of money into those and a lot of time to make them work because they're there. But what we're going to have is a situation now to where those things are not going to be really available. It's just like in Utah right now, we have the Rocky Mountains that come up, and we have streams that have a lot of fish in and lakes that have a lot of fish. But if you go and catch a trout from a beautiful mountain stream or a lake, you can't eat it. The reason you can't eat it is it is so contaminated with mercury in all the streams, in all the lakes. How did it get contaminated? It didn't used to be. It's from China. We have these big clouds of smog and pollutants coming from China clear across the Pacific, and it gets through, it goes over California, Washington, Oregon. Then it comes down in, and when it hits the Rocky Mountains, it takes a lot to get over those because they're big things. And so the air dumps the heavier particles. And so now all of our streams and lakes are so contaminated with mercury that the fish are not healthy to eat. I never would have conceived that when I was younger, but those are the things that are happening. So now if I can put this brief introduction into it, there's more coming out of that. Scientists, I just met with some, and they're predicting that immortality will be reached in 2045, somewhere around there. 2045, that's 25 years from now. Immortality will be attained. Well, I know you're probably sitting there like most people and say, how can you be immortal? Well, it's very easy to be immortal. There are things here on this earth that are immortal already. There's organisms in the deep sea they have found, and there's one particularly, which is kind of a jellyfish. And that jellyfish itself, if you find one, and they're there, is 1.5 billion years old. And they have many down there that are over 500 million, up to 1 billion years old. There are many in those environments. They don't die, and they regenerate themselves, and they take care of all these things. So if a thing like a simple little, very small little jellyfish can be immortal, yeah, the feasibility of transposing that over to us is really great. So things are going to happen that way. But I like immortality to start now. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to put you on the road to immortality. And that's going to be our theme for this next year. The most important thing about our company is we're really the Trekkies of this industry. We're going where no one has ever gone before, doing things they've never done before. And why not? We can do it. It can be done. What it takes is drive, direction, caring, passion, resources, all of that. I have that. You have that. Collectively, we put it together and we have our company. Not my company, our company. That's the way I look at it. We can do things that other companies would never dream of doing. All we need is you. You are the most important part of what this is. But then if you're going to do this, if you've got a period of time, let's say that the economy which is growing, will be leveled for income in 10 years or 15 years. That means your income going to go down, costs will come up with this thing. You may not have a job, you may be getting a minimal subsidy, even if you are working or not, with that kind of thing. And so what are you going to do about it? You're not going to do anything about it. You won't have your options. Now, granted, there will be some things, but don't be superfluous about this, because this is not just a laissez-faire situation. This is one that's really genuine, real. We're marching down that path. It's not something that's science fiction envisioned. It is now becoming reality. It can be seen, it can be achieved, and it will be, whether we like it or not. And I don't like it, but we got to live with what we got. And so my mission to tell you is you got about 10 years to build the kind of life you want, so you can, not just for you, but for your family. And you have a fantastic opportunity right now to do this for your family in this period of time. Because as many of you, and probably most of you that are on this call know, there is no company on planet Earth that is like Sisel. The products we make are state of the art. They're beyond comprehension. We don't take just something that will work, we add to it to make it work better, 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 better. And that's how we're building these things. So we have two things that we're doing. We have a compensation plan that makes money, builds money, and we have products that gives you health, and it also is a foundational money generator for you. So we're talking about products that give you health and generate money. We have a compensation plan that is so extremely generous. If you considered what most companies make and what they're running on with big volume, and you realize what our commissions are. If you sit there and you look at, if you've got a big organization, you can look down that organization and you can say, oh, you know what? I'm getting 45% or more of everything I've spent. It works out that much comes out of that downline to me, done level by level. 7 generations, 7 levels is 49. And that doesn't include all the other bonuses that we have on top of it. So you have an exponential reward. The products you sell, the work you do, the productivity, the new distributors you sign as your business expands, all geometrically increases for you so that you can have much more than if you did it on your own. The day of the traditional worker is over. That is our previous world. It's up to where many of us are right now. But if you're in the business of being or in a job and you're a traditional worker, you're doing things that are becoming obsolete. So while that change, you may evolve to a certain degree. What do you think it's going to be like in 10 years or 15 years? It's going to be shockingly austere with tremendous abundance in lots of things, but overall, a little for you here and there and us with it, because they got to share the wealth. I hate that philosophy because we have a lot of socialists in America that want to share it right now and break the country and the economy in doing it. But the one thing that you can do is you can take care of things yourself. You have a chance to do that, because when you're a traditional worker, you're really trading your time for dollars. So if you work 40 hours in a week and it was $10 an hour, for an example, it's $400 a week. That's it. You're set. Now the company can be making huge profits. You don't share in that kind of thing. Once in a while, you get some piece out of them or what they're doing. But you look at the auto workers now, where the top leaders are all being prosecuted going through because they've been robbing this income from themselves, from the union members that are there. So here you've got a company like Sisel. We're huge. We're debt free. We're one of the largest manufacturing plants in the world. We have by far vastly superior products, far advanced in science to anything that has ever been created. And it won't stop. Why? Because I won't let it. Because God's blessed me with resources and a scientific mind and a sales and marketing mind, which is an odd combination to put together. It's kind of like the way that Doc Fizz dresses. You know, he said, why would you wear that shirt with those pants? Well, the same thing is applicable here. If you have a great deal of personality that is scientific, it's like accounting. And if it's sales or marketing, it's just the opposite. It's more gregarious. So you're kind of looking at a half empty versus a half full status. And that those two personalities aren't the same. But I've had another bunch of profile tests taken over my period of life. And two of them that I've had taken, one of them for one of the largest companies. I just give a little credibility for what I'm saying. They were a large division of Dell Chemical. And what they said is, you're on the scientific side. Now it's a chemical manufacturing company and a big one, even international. And they said, when it comes to the science category, you're off the chart. We've had thousands of scientists working here, and we've never had anyone with as high aptitude. And that's not knowledge, as aptitude as you have. And I said, well, that's good, isn't it? And they said, yeah, but scientists don't make good salesmen. But in the sales and marketing area, because I was applying for a sales position in it, they said, you're off the charts. We've never had anybody score that high. And they said, we can't figure it out. I said, I can tell you real simple how to figure it out. Think of me like Popeye. I am what I am because that's what I am. And that's the way it is with me. It's the way God built me. And plus, thank goodness, because of my mother, my grandmother, great grandmother. And I think I own everything every single thing that I am, have been, will be, to my angel mother and my grandmothers that cared and give it to me. Not Dad. Now, Dad was a good guy, hardworking, very smart, but that relationship you have with your mother is a deeper bond with it. And it really is what makes the quality of people, just like it's the quality of life. As I went to my son's Christmas party, and it was so elaborately decorated, everything done so well, and on such a big scale, I realized men didn't have anything to do with this, other than maybe they made the money that paid for some of these things. But the detail and what the quality and everything there is because of that God-given nature that women have for beauty and perfection and doing things right and going the distance and all that. So we have all of our, I'm kind of rambling here, but we have our personal traits and tendencies, abilities, genetic, out of inheritance. I don't know what it all is, but I do know one thing, and I can testify to you for that. God's given me what I am. I believe in God, and I believe also that there's the scripture says, unto whom much is given, much is expected. And I'm great with that because I want to keep giving more and more and more and doing it. I'm not doing this thing for the money. I'm doing it for you. That's why I'm telling you about this. So now what you've got to do is, as I was talking about the products, you realize that we have these sensational, fabulous products. We have this extremely generous, fair, easy to qualify compensation plan that over rewards you. The products, we hype the products up. Our products exceed the hype. The other company's products, they hype them up and the performance doesn't meet it. In fact, many times they do nothing. Many times they have toxins, all of those things. You kind of know the story. So you've got a lot of things to go with.